It was actually kind of interesting. I did stumble across some old newspaper articles, and you know, but even back in 2011, I mean, I know certainly this area had some challenges, but in 2011 we were talking about a countywide EMS. So you know, my rhetorical question is, if we were talking about a countywide EMS in 2011, and everyone was, you know, is confident that they can work together to make that happen, why has it taken so long to get to this point? So I'm anxious to hear any alternative viewpoints.
Well, as Carlos said, he voted against us. Back then, I mean, and that's the truth. I mean, that's true. And you know, but it didn't work out, so we got this worked out as best we could. But
well, even though we were having the town hall meetings to create the ESD, there was a lot of the conversation that came about from the citizens is not wanting to have just a district, you know, this District 3 in this part, one section of the county. You know, the people wanted a countywide countywide EMS, countywide ESD, but the problem was not knowing where it would pass in certain areas.
Yeah.
You know, so.
The other, you know, I looked through that video. My wife goes, "When are you going to stop watching that video?" I said, "Well, when it's over, I guess." That was a 3-hour video.
October of 2017.
And you know, I heard him talking about all these ambulances within the county. You know, I mean, yes, there's 11 ambulances in the county, but how many are actually manned every day?
Oh, so you're
only 4.
Right.
And out of those 4,
well, that's not necessarily true, Robert. We do man a second ambulance about 75% of the time.
Well, yeah, I was going to get there.
out of those 4,
you know, out of those 4, I mean, like I said, we man a second ambulance 75% of the time, but that other 25% of the time, a lot of times you know, that first tone goes out and our crew's headed out. 5-10 minutes later, a second tone goes out, and sometimes we're still praying that somebody shows up. I mean, we've been fortunate to always been able to get a second crew.
We have local off-duty personnel that will come in and man that second ambulance if a 911 call comes in while the first ambulance is out.
Right. Well, we've been really good. Other services, not so lucky sometimes. You can hear those tones go off 2 times, 3 times, and before they're calling another service to go cover that call, whether it be us or Lavernia or whatever, you know. But
well,
so you know, I mean, people need to know that. I mean, there's a lot of truth that isn't coming out. You know, everybody sits there and says, "Oh yeah, we do this and we have this," but you know, I mean, as far as I know, ESD3 is the only one that has somebody at their station 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. I could be wrong.
Well, something else that came up during that meeting, I have a question about it, because I don't know if I understood.
Paramedic, though. I'm sorry.
The question is, if you're having 4 ambulances, someone asked, what if 1 or 2 of those are doing transfers, and then in effect we have 2 or 1? What was the response to that? I don't get that.
Okay, I'll kind of come back to that whole thing. I think Mr. Salazar is kind of alluding to the same issue. There is such an opportunity for better coordination and cooperation across the county. You know, if, you know, for example, we will have 4 primary units staffed in each of the corners of the county, and you know, the reality of, you know, 2 calls a day per station, you know, that gives you a little bit of an idea of how that plays. But in the event that, you know, a station in Stockdale has a run, there's no reason why we wouldn't continue to use not only the 3 other staffed rigs, but also the 4 backup rigs to make sure that we're getting cross coverage and secondary support repositioned throughout the county where there was going to be an area of need. To me, that is a ongoing daytime, you know, day-to-day decision, you know, game time decision, you know, that the executive director and the 4 stations will be making all the time about where's the need, who needs backup, where, you know, how do we make sure that we maintain response rates all across the county, because we'll have tremendous resources. We'll have 4 staffed rigs to be deployed across the county, and we'll have 4, you know, paid on-call secondary rigs to also be able to accommodate that. So I think to me it's going to continue to be a game time decision of, well, Lavernia has a need. Let's call in their backup unit and just keep game time decisioning it.
So you'll have 4 rigs that are staffed and paid 24 hours a day, and you'll have 4 paid on-call? Other rigs, there'll be paid on-call personnel for those?
As you probably recall in the budget, we will be making a call pay arrangement for the secondary rigs, just like we do with nurses, right? We have nurses on call, we have doctors on call all the time. We will have a compensation for call pay, and then we recognize that those secondary units will be called in a percentage of time.
We used to have paid on call here.
Right.
Okay. And I'm looking at this $2 an hour, I don't understand it, for the secondary rig, $2 an hour on call?
Yeah, for
Plus 1 period,
That's
is
just
that
like
right?
24
paid
threes.
on call.
That's
Okay.
right.
I got you, that's
All,
why I didn't
all
understand.
medical procedure, I don't care if it's EMS, I don't care if it's the doctors at the hospital, the anesthesiologist, there's always a secondary on-call.
And they're paid about $2 an hour.
Well, some of them are paid full pay,
Right.
we're sitting at home, you
Not
know.
many doctors get paid $2 an hour.
That's what I'm
doing
looking
it.
at, the secondary
But
rig for
Ginger, you have to look at
$2.
the next
I was
line
just
also.
wondering.
Again, I want to make sure that this point is well made and there is no confusion on it.
Okay,
Yes, you get paid $2 an hour, 24 hours a day, 365, you know, for the shifts that you're on call.
okay.
And then when you're activated, you get your hourly rate.
Right, of course.
Right, you know, so to me, it's not just the idea that we're going to have folks sitting on call that would be asked to act but not receive their hourly wage. Of course, when they're activated, you know, they go on the clock, so to
I
speak.
mean, even like our company, and it's a large company, and there's a lot of trucks out there that they even have people that are on call, that they actually pay regular salaries to. Now, if they get called in, they have to come in. But they get their regular pay just for sitting at home, and of course they're at home hoping they don't get called in, but they're called flex people, is what they call them flex people, okay? Now, same thing with our company covers Bear County. Those trucks never sit in one place very long. If a call comes out for a 911 call in the southern part of Bear County, that truck's gone, they rotate another one around over there. They don't sit. They never sit. I mean, I think that's what Mr. Burnside is talking about, is that you can rotate them around now. Okay, I got paramedics on every truck. Every truck's staffed the same. They can do the same thing. They can call people in for transfer. Transfers are not just non-emergencies too. I mean, there's stuff called what they call medcom, and those are emergency calls. It's just like if they not necessarily from coming out of a hospital.
Well, it's just like the other day, we took a status post cardiac arrest out of Common Memorial. You know, it was brought in by EMS, and then we transported it out.
And it's an emergency call. That's, yeah.
The other day there was one that needed to be flown out of Connolly, and the weather was bad, so we had to transfer out. So that was
Those are emergency calls. I mean, it's just like if they were to come out of their home.
And Ginger, I think a lot of it is all going to go down to who they hire for the director. Whoever they hire for the director is going to make those calls because it's going to be his position. You know, how many trucks is he going to have on for transfers? How many trucks is he going to do this?
He'll have an operational.
Yeah.
Well, it's like a ball game. You're gonna have a halftime.
And it's-
You're gonna have to
a
make
lot of it-
adjustments. to see
A
how
lot of
it
it's going to
goes.
have to come down to that.
That's right.
It's just,
Fortunately, we don't know that part because they haven't hired that part. When they
And
hire
they're
that
not
part, that's
started
when you
yet.
have the answer to that.
Yeah, but once they hired that position, that's, you know, like David, his job is to oversee operations. So a lot of it's going to fall under his umbrella, or hers, whoever you hire,
Right.
you know, and to kind of oversee operations and how to transition and carry things to make sure that, okay, we want to have coverage 24/7 every corner of the county. Make that happen. You know, that's your job. Figure out how to make that happen.
Is your budget, do you know what your budget is on the employees' hours? Is it like 24 72? Have you gotten that far yet, or no?
You know, what we did was we based it on, we looked at an hourly rate across 24 hours, 365 days. So we looked at that hourly rate, and then we put a premium of, I think, 15% overtime hours. So we didn't really, I didn't exactly calculate, you know, by employee, are they going to do 24s, you know, 24 on, 24 off. We didn't do that, but we calculated the cost of what it would take to cover the whole year, and then we added a overtime premium on top of that.
Any other?
Yeah, I have assuming this takes place, and me as a personally, I want a countywide, assuming that the response times are appropriate and the service is appropriate. But I think we've stated in here several times that on October 1st, if you take, you know, if you implement your plan on October 1st, we don't cease to exist.
I agree with that.
And we as a board.
I agree with that.
As long as we're here as a board, there will be some expenses. There'll be some insurance expenses that we're required to have. There may be some accounting expenses that we'll have to incur,
sure,
and what have you. So there will be some tax rate. Will it be 9, whatever we are now? No, right. I don't think so. Right. You know, I can speak for these other people, but
you'll be very confident.
that could kill the whole deal. But I mean, and we would not, from a fiduciary point of view, we wouldn't be exercising what our citizens want us to do if we tried to pull that stump. And I would think that this board has a history of, and our predecessors had a history of operating very conservatively, as long as we provide the service. Right. We don't mind providing first-class equipment, but you know, we don't go with frills and so forth for around here. But so there will be some expenses.
Yes.
So we need to, on that one slide, that needs to be modified.
Let's
and I don't, and I think that y'all could, in your presentations and what have you, it would reduce. We all feel that it would reduce the rates tremendously, right, but they wouldn't necessarily go away. We don't want to mislead the citizens in thinking that, well, this is going away, and then they get their tax bill and it hadn't gone away. Right. Type of deal.
I think that's a fair comment, and if we actually looked back at the tape when I present that slide, I always say near zero, because I agree with you. You may have some legal expenses, you may have some accounting expenses, but when we actually sit down and look at what that would look like, it's quite possible that the transaction, for equipment may cover those expenses. Or those expenses would be so de minimis that relative to the $250,000 of tax you receive now, it's an easily manageable amount for a period of time. So I'm agreeing with you completely.
And there will be another expense that if and when the day comes that the citizens of this district decide we don't need an ESD, there has to be an election.
That's a great point.
That's
a fair point.
What did we?
That's a very good. That's a very fair point.
$20,000.
That is a very fair point. I have to tell you, I did not think of that.
Somebody, and that's with all the districts, I would think. So that's an expense that we have to do a plan for as a board, or have some agreement where you would absorb that. I don't know.
Well, so like you're really bringing up a great point. I want to comment. You're really bringing up a great point. There may be all kinds of ways to structure that by putting certain money in escrow, for some of those contingencies, so that you have funds available you know, and just, we would just have to outline all that. I think your point is exactly, exactly right.
I'm just brainstorming right now to help you, I'm not.
Yeah.
When
I'm
he's
not
sitting
trying
there
to
quietly, then you gotta worry. He's
Well,
been
now,
quiet the whole
if we
time.
don't resolve completely,
You can't.
we don't have to have an election to vote.
But I said,
But if